Hello and welcome to another episode of Voice of Crypto. What should Web3 startups focus on early when they are building their on-chain identity and user experience?
But the main mission of Web3 domain is to replace a non-human readable.
So you're saying Asia and US are leading the charge currently in terms of these regions?
We started in 2022 as the official .bnb chain domain and provider, and then we expanded into multiple chains, added more and more chains over time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Voice of Crypto. This is a podcast where we talk to people from crypto, Web3 and everything in between. And today I have a special guest here, Alice. Alice is here and I really like talking to marketeers. I myself had been a marketeer for a very, very long time. So welcome on the show, Alice. And why don't you tell our audience quickly about what you do, what you have been doing and what you used to do in your previous life before getting into Web3?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Alice, marketing lead at SpaceID. Previously was the CMO at Fox Finance, which is the biggest dev on Algorand. And I'm also a co-founder of the Web3 marketing community in Lisbon, and I'm a mentor at the Women in Blockchain Africa program. SpaceID, where I'm currently at, is the biggest digital identity platform and the Web3 domain and provider. We have more than 6.7 million domains supported across 25 chains, and we also have more than 2.7 million domain name holders. Talking more about SpaceID, SpaceID is a very well-established brand. It was launched in 2022 as an all-encompassing service for decentralized naming systems to provide digital identities for all relevant on-chain ecosystems. And we expanded to multiple chains. We also have SDK and API for developers, meaning that if you are a developer, you can integrate Web3 domain and functionality into your application, platform, exchange, or we can also help and launch top-level domain name like .ens, .bnb, .arbitrum, etc.
Amazing journey, Alice. And so you have been a marketer and you have been into the industry from a very long time. From a marketing and branding perspective, what should Web3 startups focus on early? So if there are any startup founders, any builders who are listening to this podcast or watching this video, what would be your tips is that what should Web3 startups focus on early when they are building their on-chain identity and user experience from completely from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, from the marketing perspective, the main thing that everyone should keep in mind is differentiation and relevance. They should know their value, their unique value proposition, because the space is currently flooded with very, very similar products. And if you are just the next L1 chain or the next decentralized exchange or the next lending protocol, you should know why you're better than others to find the perfect product market fit and to let your product really fly and be valuable for the Web3 users and beyond. And besides the key differentiating point, which is a unique value proposition, you also should build a strong brand around your product. You should know your strategic positioning, you should know your brand identity, and building a cult of people surrounding your product, people that are your target audience and that genuinely care about your product is also another thing to consider.
So I absolutely agree with you, Alice, when you talk about your brand differentiators. And I think a lot of projects in Web3, and probably this is because the reason is Web3 is not that matured as you look at Web2 brands. So Web2 brands, they always have those strategy in place rather than just jumping and building a product. But probably because Web3 is more led by builders, they don't think much about it. But I think that's what matters a lot, because there are hundreds of similar projects. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you stand out in the crowd? Is something which makes you a successful project? But moving on to my next question is, you have worked across multiple layers of Web3, and what is one of the major mistakes which projects make? I mean, obviously you said about not differentiating themselves from day one, but What other mistakes do they make when they try to scale their brands or community, and what are some of the steps which you can suggest them? And if you have any interesting case study or any mistake in your career which while you were doing something which taught you a lot, would be happy to hear about that as well.
I think the major mistake that brands make when they try to scale up is that they want to scale up fast and cheap and with a minimum effort, which is not a sustainable growth. It's not organic, natural growth that would keep your project on the waters for long term. And actually, when we think about the big brands like Uniswap in Web3, Aave, and MetaMask, they've been building their user base and communities for years, including social profiles, including users. And you need to keep in mind that if you want to scale up your brand, you should first focus on value that you would provide for your community and how you would bootstrap this value. But you should not focus on vanity metrics that you want to acquire users uh, with a snap of a fingers, because it's not gonna make your product fly long term.
Absolutely, and I mean, you are right when that these brands have been taking a lot of time, and obviously they both, I mean, all these brands that you mentioned, they are one of the OGs in the industry, and it's not just about marketing but also the product which they have pivoted so many times. They have finally found a product market fit, and I think these are the brands which every Web3 user actually uses. So that really makes sense of how to build a brand. So all guys who are listening to this, uh, do note that you can't build your brands just by giving airdrops, just by all these fake metrics, because that's not a sustainable growth and you'll not be able to grow in the space for a very very long time. Alice, you also mentioned about domains which Space ID provides. So if you could elaborate on that, how does that function? What are these domains, and how you guys are bridging the gap between traditional domains like .com or .org and vis-a-vis a blockchain based naming system? So just shed some more light on this whole thing.
To put it simple, a Web3 domain name is like your on-chain name tag that you would use instead of your wallet address. It functions similarly to NFT, but the main mission of Web3 domain is to replace a non-human readable um, hex hell spaghetti and actually elevate the user experience in the whole Web3 space. So we are not bridging the gap with traditional Web2 domains like .com, but we are providing domains that are fully transparent, decentralized, integral, on-chain, and this is basically one of the key major differentiations that we have at Space AD. And it's also a part of your decentralized identity that you're building in the Web3 space. Your domain name is something that represents your on chain, and you should also treat it as your on chain name.
So if I block a name, let's say Abhishek voice of crypto.pnb, it remains permanently with me, and that could be, it could also act like a wallet for me. Is that how it functions?
Yeah, so about the permanent part, you can you can acquire your domain name for long, for I don't know, forever, or you can also buy it for buy and update it yearly.
Okay, so I can basically lease it out from you guys and then use it. Interesting.
Yeah, and then you can sell it on the marketplace as well, which we also own.
Okay, so if I become too famous, I can just go and sell it off.
Right. Yeah. So you can actually also monetize your naming systems and make money on this. So there is also a slight speculative part here, as everywhere in the Web3. Without financial use cases, the Web3 is usually not working.
Yes, correct. So, I mean, we Web3 people also like to have some fun on some speculation. Otherwise, what's the difference between Web3 and TradFi? So, no, I mean, interesting. And since you have been working on these domains, Alice, what are some of the regions, what are some of the geographies where you are seeing certain patterns, or where you are seeing that a lot of people are interested in this? What are some of the stats?
Right. So based on the stats that I've been tracking for almost a year regarding Web3 domains, I think the US and Asian regions are taking over. And I think it's because the US has a lot of creators, KOLs, a lot of Web3 players, same as Asia. They have a lot of KOLs that very often use the domain names as their branding on social media, as their payment way, payment method to receive funds from their followers. I think this is one of the reasons why Web3 domains are flying in those regions.
So you're saying Asia and US are leading the charge currently in terms of these regions currently. Interesting.
Uh, yeah, the US and Asia.
Amazing. I mean, I think we have, and I think these are the two regions where we have been seeing a hardcore crypto adoption as well. So probably there's a correlation between crypto adoption and buying these domains as well. Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, could be.
And Alice, I mean, as the digital identity becoming it's becoming more and more popular now, we have been seeing so many countries adopting Bitcoin. A stable coin bill is getting passed hopefully in next few days. And overall, like, the mainstream media has also started talking about digital assets, and probably that's a good thing, is that you mentioned NFTs. Still, I think probably only Web3 people still call it an NFT. Otherwise, the mainstream media started calling it digital asset, which is good, because at least you are showing it as an asset everywhere. But what are some of the platforms like your Space ID who are going to evolve in the next 2 to 3 years? Do you think an on-chain identity will become essential for every user? So probably next 4 or 5 years, even 70 years old would have a digital identity with them. How do you see the pattern? How do you envision the whole industry moving from here?
Yeah, I think digital identity has been underrated. It has a very, very high potential in the future. And I do see that lots of people in the space, in Web3 and beyond Web3, they don't care that much about privacy, data sharing. They don't care about their identities. And identities is something that we are using on a daily basis. We use our names everywhere for banking, for payments, in the hospital, at work, same as we do in Web3. Digital identity threads through all of the verticals, relatable to payments, wallets, DAO, voting, dApps, wallet addresses. And it's just the beginning. I think once people realize the high potential and importance of digital identity, it will definitely fly. And currently, as a part of the digital identity system, we have Web3 domains, which is a very, very simple name to get started with your Web3 presence and Web3 representation on chain. And they are affordable for now, but who knows what will happen in 5 years later when Web3 flies. Because we all remember that moment when the internet was getting in full swing, and pizza.com was quite affordable domain name in Web2, but now it costs millions of dollars. Same for Web3 domain names. Currently, they range from $6 to $600 per year, but depending on the length of the domain name. But who knows what will happen in several years later.
Absolutely. I think it's Gen Z's. I was reading some report, and it said Gen Z's are still worried about, because they don't get their email on Gmail with their names, because I think our generation has already taken everything. So those who are listening to it, I think that's the right moment, because what has been happening in last, at least I would say, in past few months, is as Web3 is getting more mainstream media coverage, there are multiple use cases which will start coming in. So if you don't own or probably if you could not get a .com when it was all about .com, you still have time to buy a Web3 domain. Otherwise, you or your brand might never even get it in future. So yeah, just go on Space ID, check out their domains, and yeah, at least book something for you, block for something for you, or even if you have a business idea, just block it and keep it. You never know when
Yep.
when you might use it. And Alice said that you can also make money out of it. You can also monetize it. So yeah, who knows? You might have $1 million domain just sitting there, and you can just buy it for $6. So yeah, and moving on to my next question, Alice. It's a fun question. Do you remember the moment when you got into Web3? So, and I'm sure when you were a child, you never thought of becoming a Web3 marketer, because there was no Web3 market at that point of time. And in fact, all the people I meet, they never thought about becoming a Web3 or getting into Web3. But do you remember that specific moment when it just clicked and you said, I want to get into Web3, and you just never looked back?
Um, I do remember the moment when I got started with Web3, not precisely with Web3, but with Bitcoin, and it happened in 2020 after the coronavirus hit the world. I joined the IT company, and I was hired as a content manager. Back then in Russia, where I'm from, the cryptocurrency was semi-legal and no one wanted to reveal the actual business.
Hmm.
This is why I didn't know that I actually joined the blockchain product before I was officially hired. And this is how I got started. I got fascinated by the technology, and then I just jumped from one company to another company, mostly startups. And most of the startups in 2021 got crashed. I think maybe 9 out of 10. But I never questioned my next destination. It was just going naturally that I would be hired in a blockchain company and then in another blockchain company, and then we started to use the word Web3. Um, yeah, but now after 6 years, almost 6 years in the industry, I can definitely say that I would not join any other markets, because I already know a lot about it, and I know ups and downs, I know the cycles, I know how to adapt. I do feel comfortable. So, and I actually think that this industry is innovating like crazy,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
no one beyond is doing the same, especially with AI sector. I think the merge of AI and Web3 is a killing couple, which we also should consider. So yeah, I think we are really at the forefront of innovation in Web3.
Absolutely. And Alice, so this is your second cycle.
Yeah.
So what do you think, just a prediction, not a financial advice, what do you think would be the Bitcoin's top this year? Or this cycle maybe?
I'll keep my thoughts by myself.
Oh, so it means Alice has so many Bitcoin that she doesn't want to reveal it. But moving on to my next question is, what do you think? I mean, you have been into this decentralized identity from a very long time. Do you think this would be the key to unlocking mainstream adoption of Web3, or will it still remain more niche and developer focused? Like, what are the trends which you can foresee in the decentralized identity domain currently?
So I think that with AI agents kicking in millions in quantity,
Hmm.
I think digital identity will be of paramount importance. We just haven't reached that threshold yet.
Hmm.
But when we see millions of AI agents operating across Web3 and beyond, it'll be impossible to differentiate those from real humans. And this is where digital identity will kick off. This is where we will start caring about our digital identity, about digital identity of AI agents, and we will see many more products that would, that would equip the space with necessary digital identity suites.
So in next 4 to 5 years, you think everybody would eventually have a digital identity, or it'll become very mainstream?
Yeah, I think it should become mainstream once we realize that AI also have identities, and we should also have our identities as well. And we already have our identities. It's just not something that we standardized. We have our wallet addresses, which is our digital identity. We have our nicknames within the communities.
Hmm.
Um, Talking about Web2, we have like everything, everywhere where we leave any trace of our personal data it's a part of our digital identity. And once we have a universal way where we'll separate AI and human, and we will have a universal marketplace where we can get all of those identities, or at least keep them safe and secure. This will be the moment when digital identities will go mainstream.
Absolutely, Alice, and you guys have been integrating across multiple chains. So I think you mentioned .bnb, .eth, and other multiple .arbitrum as well. So what's the strategy behind having a multi-chain naming services, and how does that benefit first a user and then a developer? So what is the role which you guys, what is what is the thought behind building it on multiple chains rather than just one single chain?
That's a great question. Being multi-chain has always been a differentiating point for Space AD as opposed to Unstoppable or ENS. We started in 2022 as the official .bnb chain domain name provider, and then we expanded into multiple chains, added more and more chains over time. The idea was simple and clear: to provide users and projects and dApps with the most comprehensive toolkit and suite of digital identities for all relevant blockchains. And this is basically the universal place where we want users to have access to multiple chains, not just to one chain as ENS or to a couple of more chains as Unstoppable. We want them to have everything in one place.
Absolutely. I think that's what differentiates you guys between other players. And as you rightly said, that there are multiple players. How do you differentiate yourself from both a product as well as a service point of view? But thank you, Alice, for coming on the show and sharing your interesting insights. I have one last question for you, and it's a hypothetical question. Is if I could give you a time machine, and you could go back probably 10 years back in your career, in your life, what changes would you make? And number two is, if you can go ahead 10 years from today, where do you see yourself, where do you see the industry heading towards?
Those are great questions. Thank you for asking. If I could go back 5 years earlier, I would not change anything. That's my
Not
first
buy more
answer.
bitcoins?
Yeah, maybe I would buy more Bitcoin for sure.
Right.
But I wouldn't change anything in my career. And if I look in 10 years later, I think yeah, I see myself as a product manager or product marketing manager, um, or maybe even the founder of the next big thing. Who knows? And I do want to continue my career in Web3, and I do want to spearhead marketing. I do want to yeah, I do want to make higher standards for marketing in Web3 and to propel that niche as well, because I've been running a Web3 marketing community with talented marketers in Portugal. And yeah, I've got a lot of goals to hit. We'll see how fast it would happen. It will definitely happen, but just a matter of time.
Absolutely, Alice, and wishing you all the best. And I think, as you rightly said, I'll really resonate with is to change and to create better marketing opportunities, better marketing campaigns in Web3, because I think that's what we have been lagging in the industry. The products are amazing, but the narrative, the storytelling is something which is needed. So, wishing you all the best, Alice, and thank you again for coming on our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. And those who are listening to this podcast, I'll be back with a new set of guests soon. Till that, keep watching us and do give us a follow. Thank you very much, Alice.
Thank you.